On a freezing night where shadows swallowed the forgotten, a billionaire's world was about to be shaken. From the tinted glass of his luxury car, he saw a ragged boy, skin and bones, barefoot, moving with haunting grace in the gutter's glow. At first it looked like madness, until his gaze shifted. Just beyond the street lamp, his paralyzed daughter was watching, her face lit with a joy he hadn't seen in years. How could a homeless child discarded by society awaken something that billions could not buy? What followed would expose a truth far darker and far more powerful than he ever imagined. The city was a machine of contradictions, glass towers reflecting wealth on one side. At the same time, alleys stank of hunger. On the other hand, at the center of this world lived Leonard Harrington, a man whose fortune was whispered in boardrooms and whose power stretched far beyond the skyline. To outsiders, he had it all: influence, luxury, and a life others could only dream of. But behind the guarded gates of his mansion lay a secret he couldn't bury. His only daughter, Clara, had been paralyzed for years after a tragic accident. Doctors had promised hope, specialists had taken his millions, yet her wheelchair became her prison and her silence became his torment. Leonard's wealth could buy anything except her smile. She had grown withdrawn, her once bright laughter replaced by a hollow gaze that haunted him more than any corporate battle ever could. He tried everything: music therapy, private tutors, even the most celebrated performers flown in from across the globe. But nothing stirred her spirit. Each attempt ended in quiet failure, leaving him with the crushing truth that money could not heal what fate had stolen. It was on one of those restless nights, while driving back from yet another futile medical consultation, that Leonard's car slowed at a forgotten corner of the city. The air was damp, the streets empty except for a lone figure moving under a flickering street lamp. A boy, clothes torn, barefoot, his skin marked by the hardship of the streets. He wasn't begging, he wasn't speaking, he was dancing. And, not just dancing, his movements told stories, sharp and graceful, as if he carried entire worlds in his fragile frame. Leonard might have looked away, dismissing him as just another stray lost to the city's cruelty. But then he noticed Clara's eyes. Wide, focused, alive. Leonard ordered the driver to stop. For a moment, he sat frozen, unsure whether to dismiss what he saw or confront it. The boy's movements were raw, untamed, yet beautiful, like a language of survival carved into every gesture. Clara leaned forward, her eyes locked on him, a spark of recognition in her face. Leonard had not seen that expression in years. He stepped out of the car, the chill of the night biting into his tailored suit. The closer he came, the more he saw the boy's condition. His skin was dark, scarred, and his ribs showed beneath the thin fabric of a torn shirt. Passers-by, what few there were, ignored him, some crossing the street deliberately, others muttering insults under their breath. "Street rat," someone hissed. "Shouldn't be here." The boy seemed deaf to them, his body moving in rhythm with a world beyond their cruelty. Leonard, a man used to commanding respect, felt strangely humbled. This child, unwanted and unseen, was reaching his daughter in a way no doctor or artist had managed. He asked around later that night and learned the boy's name: Eli. Orphaned, mixed race, and homeless, since he could remember. In a city where wealth dictated worth, Eli's existence was an inconvenience, a reminder of a society that preferred its poor hidden in shadows. The following evenings, Leonard returned. Each time Clara insisted on coming along. Eli never begged, never spoke much, but when he danced, Clara lit up. For the first time in years, She clapped her hands weakly against her wheelchair armrest, laughter spilling out like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Leonard's chest ached, joy and guilt entangled, because the healing he sought through wealth was unfolding in the presence of a child society had discarded. But not everyone shared Clara's joy. Shopkeepers scowled when Eli lingered nearby. Police officers eyed him suspiciously, threatening to clean the streets if he didn't move along. Leonard, who had always been sheltered by privilege, began to see the city's cruelty in sharp detail. Eli was not just homeless. He was condemned by the color of his skin, by the poverty stamped on his body. Even when Clara clung to him, society tried to push him away. The nights grew colder and Leonard wrestled with an impossible truth. He owed Eli something he could never repay. The boy was giving back life to Clara, yet had nothing to protect himself from the world's disdain. Soon, Leonard would face a choice: remain the silent billionaire, untouched by the struggles of the unseen, or step into a fight far beyond his comfort zone. And just as his mind leaned toward helping, fate struck. One evening, when Eli's dance drew a small crowd, a group of older boys emerged, mocking, spitting, shoving him to the ground. "Stay in the gutter where you belong," they sneered. Clara screamed for the first time in years, her voice trembling through the night. Leonard rushed forward, anger coursing through him. Still, in that violent moment, he realized Eli's battle was bigger than hunger, bigger than homelessness. It was a battle against a world determined to erase him. The attack happened so quickly, Leonard barely had time to react. Eli was on the ground, curled beneath the blows of boys bigger, angrier, and fueled by hatred that went far beyond the dance. Their words cut sharper than their fists, slurs, insults, curses that reduced him to nothing but the color of his skin and the poverty he wore. For years Leonard had lived insulated, shielded by bodyguards and gates. But now he was face to face with a reality he could not ignore. He lunged forward, pulling Eli up with his own hands, shouting at the attackers until they scattered into the night. Eli's lip bled, his small body trembling, but his eyes, those resilient eyes, still burned with defiance. Clara's wheelchair jolted closer, her hands shaking as she reached for him. And in that instant Leonard saw it. The invisible bridge between two broken children, one trapped by her body, the other by society's cruelty. They recognized each other's pain without words. That recognition carried a power greater than anything Leonard's fortune had ever purchased. But the world around them didn't stop to honor that bond. Police sirens wailed in the distance, drawn by the commotion. When the officers arrived, their suspicion didn't fall on the fleeing aggressors but on Eli. Their hands moved to their belts, eyes narrowing. "This one again," one muttered. Leonard, furious, stepped between them and the boy, his voice thundering with a power they weren't used to hearing on behalf of someone like Eli. "He saved my daughter," Leonard growled, "and you will not lay a finger on him." The officers hesitated, uncomfortable under the weight of his authority. For the first time, Leonard felt the sharp sting of complicity. How often had his silence given men like these the confidence to treat children like Eli as disposable? Tonight that silence ended. He pulled Eli close, Clara still reaching, her eyes alive with desperate fear. In that storm of violence, hatred, and resistance, Leonard made a decision that would change all their lives. He would not just shield Eli, he would fight for him, no matter the cost. The days that followed were unlike anything Leonard had ever known. For the first time, he wasn't writing checks to ease guilt or bury problems. He was standing in the middle of them. He brought Eli into his home, not as a charity case, but as a human being deserving of dignity. At first, the staff whispered, some recoiled, others questioned his judgment. How could a billionaire open his doors to a boy society branded as worthless? But Leonard was unmoved. He had seen how Eli's spirit ignited Clara's will to live, and no wall of prejudice would tear that away. Clara began to change. She laughed more, spoke more, and her body, though still bound to her chair, responded in ways doctors had said were impossible. Small twitches of movement, tiny victories, each one celebrated as if she had conquered the world. Eli's dancing was no longer just art, it was medicine for her soul. He danced not on cold pavements anymore, but in sunlit gardens, his rhythm lifting a family that once drowned in silence. Yet beyond the mansion walls, the world remained cruel. Whispers of scandal circled in the press. Neighbors sneered at the sight of Eli beside them. Reporters questioned Leonard's motives, and authorities threatened to investigate the boy's past. The message was clear. Wealth might protect Leonard, but Eli would always be judged first by the skin he wore and the poverty he came from. Still, Leonard stood firm. For every door that slammed, he opened another. He enrolled Eli in school, hired tutors, and most importantly, gave him a family that believed in him. Clara's laughter became the anthem of their home, proof that healing could come not from money or privilege, but from the courage to see value in the unseen. In time, people began to notice, not the scandal, not the gossip, but the transformation. A billionaire who had once lived only for power was now using it to dismantle walls of hatred. And it all began with a homeless boy dancing in the dark. So the question lingers. If a child society abandoned could bring life to a paralyzed girl and conviction to a powerful man, what excuses remain for us? How many miracles are we overlooking, simply because they come dressed in rags instead of riches?